I am in the strange position of being a father of three children, aged 21, 19, and 12, and I only stumbled across antinatalism in the past 18 months. I think it was a result of veganism. Interestingly, I went plant based 3 years ago, taking my lead from my son, who was 9 at the time. I've always felt a little uncomfortable putting myself in a box. I've changed my mind so many times around different ideas, so anything I share is done knowing that I may not always think this way should new evidence to the contrary arise. So I prefer calling myself a reproduction skeptic, because one day evidence may surface which may convince me that reproduction is okay, although I doubt it. Now, before I go on, when I speak about this in public, people always ask me if I have children. And when I say, yes, I've got three, they laugh and call me a hypocrite and also ask if I regret having them. My feelings towards reproduction have nothing to do with them personally. Having made the ignorant choice to reproduce, I am extremely lucky to have children who are healthy, bright, intelligent, attractive, talented, and wise. I choose not to think in terms of regret. What I do say is that if I knew 40 years ago what I know now, I would not have reproduced, but then my life would also be very different. Then it would have turned out very differently with very different choices. The onus regarding reproduction lies on the natalist to explain why on earth he or she would bring new life here, and I have as of yet not heard a convincing justification for it. However, this competition is called Why I Am an Anti-Natalist, so here goes. Firstly, let me explain what my thoughts are around the subject. I don't understand or like the idea of sentience, because if something is sentient, that means that they can feel pain. Why is that part of our physical reality? If I was creating a virtual reality game, I would never build sentience into the game. If you choose to reproduce, you are exposing this new flesh suit to a host of possibilities, probabilities, and certainties, none of which I think should be forced on another person. I think we should also talk not about having children, because they don't remain children, so I'm going to use the word offspring. There is always a possibility that your offspring is born with a serious physical or mental illness and or malformation. Even if you could cope with being the parent, it seems wrong to take the risk of imposing that experience on another. There are significant possibilities of developing all sorts of illnesses in childhood, including cancer. There are possibilities of car accidents that could kill or maim, as well as all sorts of tragedies that can happen. And of course, there's all sorts of possibilities of illnesses, some of them serious, that could occur any stage and any time in your child offspring's life. Your offspring could also be a psychopath, rapist, paedophile, murderer, or another way to say it, a politician. He or she could be a drug addict, sex addict, alcoholic, gambler. Your offspring, especially if it's female, could suffer from eating disorders like anorexia or bulimia. And then there are things that will probably happen. Your offspring will probably be bullied in school. Someone will probably cheat on them in their lives. They will probably die in an unpleasant way. They will probably struggle with at least one area of life, possibly more, be that finances, relationship, health, parenting, etc. If you have a daughter, she'll probably be molested in some way at some stage in her life. Then there are the certainties. We'll start with women, because both nature and culture deals women a worse hand than men. If you have a daughter, she will definitely have to go through periods for most of her adult life. If she chooses to reproduce, then she will definitely go through intense pain. If you have a daughter, she will be constantly looked at by men as a sex object. She will be relentlessly told by the marketeers that she needs to wear makeup and have fancy clothes to be liked and attractive, and that it's important to be attractive. She's unlikely to be able to resist those messages and will therefore have to spend lots of time and money on grooming herself. But for the men and women, there is definitely going to be pain and suffering. The minute the child emerges, it starts to cry, and it spends its whole life chasing after things to fill the void, and suffers when these needs are not met. Some people suffer a huge amount and others less. I was one of the lucky ones so far. If your child doesn't die of a disease sometime in its first 60 years, then it will experience a slow demise. Different parts of the body will decay at different rates. Some people will start to lose all their teeth, others their minds. And then, of course, there's the certainty of death, which nobody really wants, obliteration. So I am responsible for the deaths of all my 3 children, which would not have happened had I have not had them. So the minute the child comes out of the womb, we have created a whole set of needs that weren't there before, physical and emotional needs. And the child is going to both exploit others and be exploited by all sorts of people. There's a pile of poop somewhere on this planet with your name on, from your babyhood. So every child exploits the world with all its needs. Then there's, of course, the exploitation of your children, of the animals. If you are a meat eater, you're bringing another meat eater onto the planet, then you are complicit in the torture and murder of the 65 billion animals every year. I think that's not even including fish that are killed just for our food, just because we like the taste. So if you bring a child here and you teach that child to eat meat and fish and eggs and dairy, then you are harming the animals as well, and that child is going to cause more harm to the animals. Not only that, your child will be exploiting the people of the country, because everyone in the country has to support your children. We pay for their schooling and their NHS. Then there are the slaves all over the world that produce food and clothing for your children. I personally want to be as least a part of that as I can, and your children will be exploited. They will end up being part of a grossly unjust system that rewards psychopaths and punishes empaths. Nothing is better for the environment than ceasing to reproduce. And then there are the millions of children that are in dire need of your help. Why bring another mouth to feed onto the planet when there are millions that need adopting, fostering, or even godmothering or uncling? So I therefore cannot see why people would bring in any new forms of sentience, be they human or animal, in the knowledge that they are going to experience pain and suffering, and it's only a matter of how much or how little before their inevitable demise. Bringing sentience is exposing people to harm. That's why I call myself a utopian. Utopia means literally no place, which is where we come from and where we go, and it's never necessary to pull anyone out of utopia. Stay safe.